No, the big news is LeBron James was the first player to ever score 40,000 points. And you know it's a big night for LeBron and the Lakers when they end up losing the game. That seems to happen every time he breaks records. But 40,000 points is kind of crazy. Can we thinking, is there anything I've ever done 40,000 times in my life? I don't think I've even done anything 40,000 points. LeBron James in the record books, once again, not only did he surpass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, he now is setting a record that we may never seen broken. Guys, I wanted to put this into context for you. So I looked at a few of the numbers, right? Because you got to think, who else is going to surpass the 40,000 point mark? Because LeBron is not done, right? When you look at right now this season, if there's no injuries, he's on track to play about 71 games, the most he's played since 2018. And if he scores about 1,800 points, he's going to go into next year with 40,500 career points and playing 60 games a season for the next 2 years, averaging 23 points a game. He would finish his career with 43,000 points. So who are some of the names that you think could catch him? Because Kevin Durant, James Harden, Stephen Curry are all prolific scorers, but they're way too late in their careers to catch up. Are there any names you have in mind that you think could even get close to this mark?
Well, that is a difficult one because, the longevity first and foremost and the consistency of performance. We're talking over a 21-year span where he's averaged 27 points a game. His rookie year was his lowest average, and that was like 20.9. And then he hasn't been below 25 points a game since. Durant would have come to mind, but now Durant is 15, 16 years in himself, and LeBron is still playing, so that's going to be a tough one for him to catch because he would have been the first player to come to mind.
Because KD would have had a chance to even surpass Kareem if it wasn't for all those injuries he had within the space of like those 2-3 years where he was pretty much written off.
Right. Yeah. It's really, is there anybody in the NBA I can speak to? Look, Victor Wembanyama is going to be a terrific player. Can he play 21 seasons? That will be the test.
Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Wembanyama, if he was to average 28 points a game, playing 70 games a season for 20 years, only equals out to 39,200 points. So that still isn't even enough to get to 40K. Exactly, if we look at like the young star in the league who's racking up the point scoring totals the quickest right now is Luka Doncic. If Luka Doncic plays 66 games every season while scoring 30 points a game for the next 13 seasons, he doesn't even get to 38,000. So Giannis, to get to 40,000 points, would have to average 30 points a game, 75 games a season for the next 11 years. I don't think there's currently a player in the NBA. If there was a player who joined the NBA as a rookie, they would have to average 35 points a game for 15 and a half seasons, playing 75 games a season to get to 40,000 points. Yeah. BJ, did you ever expect in your lifetime to see someone score 40,000 points throughout their career?
Yeah, I did. I really did. And this is why I expected to see this. Kareem had what, 38,000?
Yeah, 38,003.
Kareem had 38. Right. Kareem had 38,000, and I remember
38,387.
There you go.
And there was a historian that I had as a coach, the late Johnny Bach and the late Tex Winters, and Scott and I were always fascinated by. I was always fascinated by sitting at the table with older people to listening to the stories because I always felt I had the opportunity to learn.
No question.
And Tex Winters and these guys used to always talk about, like players. They would talk about Connie Hawkins and Spencer Haywood and Earl Monroe and all these things. And Johnny Bach and these guys would always talk about things. And then we would talk about the following, like what the human body was actually capable of doing. And one of the things he said to me, and I remember being an executive, I looked at it, was Kareem wasn't even allowed to play on the varsity team as a freshman.
Right.
Okay. So you put that 38,000, I don't know how many years he played. I think he played about 19 or 20 years,
20,
right?
yeah.
20 years.
Yep.
And then you put those 4 years on
Of college, yeah.
Right.
And that he kind of gave us the blueprint of that. Okay. Now, this is nothing. Hey, congratulations to LeBron, da da da. But then I remember Tex Winters saying this. He said, Wilt only played about 14 years or so in the NBA.
Right.
He went 2 years in college. Then he played 1 year for the Harlem Globetrotters. Okay. And he was doing this in Converse Cons, by the way.
High tops.
Okay. I don't even think he was in high tops. I don't even think he was in
they
high
were low
tops.
tops. They were low tops, just to rub a sole and some
that's
material.
that's the little thing that BJ and I go back and forth.
Yes,
high tops and low tops.
Okay. And then when he retired, right, he was still only, 34 or 35? And
he became a high jumper, right? He went and did
this guy was an incredible athlete. What I'm saying is, we've seen this athlete, right? It was brought to my attention years ago, like 30 years ago. I'm not taking away from anybody what they've done. Obviously, you got to do it. But we've seen a level of athlete that has the potential to do this. And I expect now that it has been done, that LeBron has actually given us a visual, that it will be duplicated now, because other players will be like, oh, we've seen it before. It's kind of like cracking the 100-yard dash. No one will break 10 seconds. And all of a sudden it was done. And all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, I could do that too. So I think there will be more players. Now it will require some luck. And the luck being you got to stay healthy to do it.
No question.
But I do think with a player like a Wilt Chamberlain, the guy averaged 50. Okay. And now we're in an era now where, in my opinion, offense is kind of encouraged. And I think someone can average 35 points a night now. I really do.
It's just a case of if they can do that
think about
for
what
17 and a half seasons, though.
Yeah. But it's just when you bring up Wilt, it's interesting. That's the one record that may never be eclipsed.
That's what I'm saying.
He averaged 50 points a game in 61, 62.
This is what I'm saying.
And that's that record. That record now
do you know
63 years
the
old.
craziest one, right? If I'm correct in thinking, he averaged over 48 minutes a game one season because he played overtime.
Every game.
So
that was the same season.
It would be physically impossible for a player to average over 48 minutes a game, right?
No, it's not impossible. It's been done. It's not impossible. It's just the mindset.
Well, this is what I said. I made a TikTok video yesterday where I said the thing with LeBron, everyone goes on longevity, but it's really the durability, because in his first 15 seasons,
no question,
he only missed 71 games. That's an average of 4.7 games per season missed. So now, when you look at the all-stars of the league, and we're at All-Star Weekend, and everyone's doing their media interviews saying it's unfair that we have to play 65 games per season to get our awards. Okay, if this is the mindset of the current NBA star, that they don't even want to play 65 games, let alone 75, let alone 82, none of these guys are ever going to catch LeBron's record. It's going to have to be a generational shift where players come back in to wanting to compete night in and night out with, no, I'm not too tired to play in a back-to-back. No, I know I've been in a club, but I still want to play. That's what I think. I don't think anyone in this current generation of players is going to get near that record. It has to be someone who comes in with the mindset of, I'm going to go out there every single night and I'm going to play every minute possibly available to me, as you saw LeBron James do throughout the first 15 years of his career. So,
go ahead, Scotty.
Obviously, we're talking about at minimum 21 years from now, 22 years from now. If we're not saying that nobody's in the league, it's 22 years from now at minimum, probably.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's like 30, 44 years.
There's no question. I think it's going to be a while, but I do agree with BJ on this. It's an old saying that, records are made to be broken. And you heard that a lot coming up and growing up. And no matter how great a talent or great a player that we see in front of us in current day, there's always somebody coming from behind. Maybe it's a year or two later, maybe it's 10 years later, maybe it's 20 years later, but somebody's coming. Somebody is going to break through that ceiling and maybe eventually eclipse it. Now, will that be in our lifetime? We'll see. But it's again, I just got to give it the biggest testament to me of this is the longevity piece and the consistency that went along with it. And I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about this issue, what I give LeBron a lot of credit for, because BJ, you recall this because I remember you calling me about him when you first saw him in high school when he was a 10th grader.
Mm-hmm.
He was elite at attacking the basket and creating for his teammates. But as you recall, as an 18-year-old coming in the league, he was not a consistent mid-range shooter, let alone deep ball shooter. And to his credit, and you're talking about the amount of hours and reps players put in their games, LeBron did that. He got better in both of those spaces and improved as a free throw shooter along the way too. So all of that had to come together for him to be sitting here going over 40,000 points and, probably like you said, going to push it. If he's going to play 2-3 more years, you're looking at maybe 44,000 points.
Yep, so. It could very well. What do you think is the hardest record to break? If every record is made to be broken, which one do you think that any player has? It could be like John Stockton's assist or like Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points in the game, averaging 50.
Well, no, somebody may get to the 100 points in one game one day, but averaging 50 points a game for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that record now is at 61, 62. So what are we looking at? That's 63 years old, a 63-year-old record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That has stood the test of time. I think that one for me, and he averaged 25 rebounds a game that season, if I'm not mistaken, right, BJ?
Listen,
somebody can.
I saw a man. Okay, there's two things I didn't see. One, I saw a man average 37 tonight with hand checking. With hand checking. Now I gotta believe, Scott, that's at least 8 more points on that without hand checking. I'm just saying I gotta believe.
Like he like I said, he may have been the guy, if he was playing along in this era to approach that.
That's what I'm saying. I gotta believe,
but Will, and the way the game was played back then, you work the ball inside so much more.
Yeah,
to get those because you need those layups and dunks and
absolutely. But I also saw a man who was unguardable. His name was Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
And listen, I love Shaq. And I think Shaq understands what I'm about to say. Shaq was an unstoppable force. There was no double team and there was no triple team in him when he wanted to do what Shaq really wanted to do. And the fact that he didn't average 40 a night was only because he wasn't in condition to average 40 a night, because there was no stopping him. We will see someone average over 40 a night, and it's going to be a big guy because of what you just said. You got to get these easy opportunities. That's why elite scorers are so efficient. 1 dribble pull-up, 2 dribble pull-up. You can't spend all your time doing all of the step backs and all of that because time is of the essence. Shaq should have easily, because when the big fella was upset and when he really wanted to dominate, was no stopping him. None. And there will be another one. There will be another one that will come through this. and he will do it.
Yeah, and it'll help if that guy can shoot 75% from the free throw line too.
And
Because he fouls Shaq all the
and
time.
a couple
Shaq,
threes here and there as well.
That hurts.
This is what this is what I'm saying. Shaq probably could have averaged 35 if he could have just shot 70% from the free throw line.
Exactly.
He could have done it then.
Yeah.
Shaq was an unstoppable. Listen, I know we talk about GOATs and all of that. I saw a man who was unstoppable. There was no stopping him. Like, like there was no stopping the dunk if he really wanted to dunk it. There was no double teaming him. You couldn't double team him, Scott. You couldn't even double team him with a little guy.
Craziest part about Shaq's career is the amount of people who were employed by the other 29 teams, the other however many teams, just to have big bodies on the roster to foul him enough times. Because there's teams
Scott, put together a team.
Look, we played them in the finals. We signed Eldon Campbell. He was our third center. And every time we got to get ready to play the Lakers, 2 weeks out before we played them in the regular season, Larry Brown would start playing Eldon Campbell a few extra minutes because we were going to use the 18 fouls. We were going to match, like you said, we weren't going to double him because that just wasn't, our philosophy. You couldn't
double him.
You couldn't because you almost wasting the man. Yeah, right. Now you're wasting the man going over there, and Shaq got good enough where he could drop some passes off and things to open guys cutting to the basket. But we had, 3 big guys that we rotated in on him for the entire game. And that was key for us being able to beat them once we got into the finals, is that we had multiple bodies. If you didn't have at least 3 bigs, because, we started Ben Wallace, who was undersized with him, but he had the heart of a lion. Yes, Rasheed was tall enough to guard him over there, but didn't have the girth to hold the position with him. Then you had, I mentioned Eldon Campbell was huge for us, in that, and then we had Mehmet Okur, who's another big body that you could just, try to throw on him. You had to have multiple big bodies. One last point I do want to make, though, going back to what BJ was talking about, and someone maybe averaging 50, consider this, though, when Wilt played and the makeup of his team, how everything funneled obviously through Wilt and the level of talent around him. I think what makes it tougher to average 50 today is the mentality of all the players who really want to, go out and prove that they can score and do these things. So now that player is going to have to be on the absolute right team with the right mental makeup of other players that we're going to be comfortable just going through him down there every trip down the court.
Hold on. Time out, Scott. Time out, Scott. Time out, Scott. Hold on, Scott. Hold on. Time out, Scott. Time out.
All right.
Now, you and I are from Detroit, so let's have a Detroit conversation here. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable being from Detroit, because no one is deferring to anyone when it comes to playing in the game.
Right.
And what I have seen in today's game is the following. There aren't a lot of players who have what I would consider a dominant personality.
Correct.
It wasn't like Michael Jordan was saying, "Hey guys, could you please pass me the ball?"
No question.
Now, this personality is going to have a little Detroit in him.
He's got
to have
no question.
Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. Jordan, Wilt.
They had the mentality. Yes,
they had a different mentality. Was saying, and they was willing to be confrontational if need be. If you didn't throw them the ball, right. Akeem Olajuwon, Shaq. There was no Scott coming down talking about a heat check. Just see if the 3-ball was going on.
Right. But see, I agree with you, but that's my point. These guys, the way they coming up playing now, they all coming down thinking that, I need a heat check. And so to get them galvanized, like I said, the guy who's gonna average 50 in today's game, he's gonna have to go. He's gonna really have to come and have this doggish mentality and like, hey, be ready to tell everybody. No, if anybody wants to eat tonight, the game is coming through me.
Yep.
I
don't see no dogs out there left in the league.
I don't see that personality in the game right now.
I don't see that personality in society anymore. I'm a grumpy old man now. I just don't see that. I don't see no dogs around.
It's gonna show back up, Mo. It's gonna show back up.
Yeah, when my son gets to the league, then you'll see it be.
Yeah, okay.
When Mo Jr. someday, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, whenever it's the time, gets to the league, then you're going to see a real dog. Go get 50 a night.